Hey YouTube, let's set up my January 2025 bullet journal spreads. In case you didn't watch my 2025 plan with me, I am using the Playful Panda A5 dot grid bullet journal from Notebook Therapy. Notebook Therapy journals have been a go-to for me over the past year or so, as I love all their designs and the pages are thick enough to withstand the pens I use without signs of ghosting or bleed through. The theme I picked for January is based around capybaras. I came across some really cute capybara sketches as I was browsing Pinterest while I was setting up my 2025 overview, and I knew I wanted to include them in my monthly pages. For this cover page, I switched between an acrylic paint marker and a Tombow dual brush pen for the colouring. You'll notice that in my later spreads, I pretty much exclusively use the Tombows, as I have a much wider range of colours to choose from, and acrylic paint pens take some getting used to. It does unfortunately mean that some of the colouring looks streaky, as Tombows are water-based markers. I did my best to minimise the streakiness, but in areas where I failed, I still think that the benefit of the wider colour range offsets the compromised aesthetic of the streakiness. The font I chose for this month is a bold serif font, which I filled in entirely in black. I was considering making the title a dark brown to go along with the capybara theme, but I like how the boldness of the black stands out from the various shades of brown. After my cover page, I included a monthly calendar where I can write out events, appointments, or anything else that's important to quickly reference at a glance. Since this is my first monthly setup in an A5 journal, I experimented a little with the layout and ultimately decided to go with these square boxes outlining each day of the month, to keep it consistent with the rectangular borders I include in my other pages. As the calendar does end up taking just about the whole page, I had little room to add the doodles, but I still wanted to draw some capybaras to keep the page from looking boring, I guess. I picked dates where I don't expect to have much going on, and therefore don't think I'll be writing much in the box, just so I don't compromise the functionality of the calendar. After I coloured in the doodles and added in the dates, I went over every other box with a very pale brown. My phone ran out of storage at this exact moment, so unfortunately I don't have any footage of it, but you can see it quickly here and in my final flip through at the end of the video. My next double page is for my trackers. I have been using this circular habit tracker design for a few months now, and I really like how it looks filled in at the end of the month. I sketched it out beforehand to minimize my setup time, but I have basically made 6 circular cutouts that I can use as stencils each month, and I separated the circles into 32 sections. I contemplated making separate stencils for 31 and 30 day months, and a 28 section one for February, but it was definitely easier to just keep splitting each section in half and going with 32. I haven't yet decided if I want to keep the 30-second section of the wheel blank, or colour them in for a dopamine rush and extra motivation. The other tracker on this page is a mood tracker. Since this month's theme is capybaras, I of course went with a capybara filled page. It was honestly my favourite page to sketch out. I first drew rough circles for each doodle and made sure I could fit all 31 days as well as a key on the page before I sketched out each capybara in full. To be completely honest, I think it looks very plain after I erased all the sketch markings, and I kind of prefer how it looked with the shaded paws and ears, but I still think this will be one of my favorite pages to look back on after it's all colored in. These next few pages are a bit of a trial for me. I found that dumping a list of tasks in my weekly spreads was pretty ineffective, as a lot of my to-do list items can span across several weeks, and having to write out each task that I didn't complete on the following weekly spread was both time-consuming and a waste of space. So I decided to try out these to-do list pages, where I will write down all my tasks whenever they come to mind, and then I'll include them in my weekly spreads as and when I actually plan to do them. I dedicated one page solely to work-related tasks, but I might change this up in February if I find it doesn't work out. The next page is a monthly finance tracker. If you have seen my 2025 overview setup, you'll know I included a yearly finance tracker, which tracks all my monthly expenses and income. This page is purely to list out transactions that I make, particularly the expenses, so I can keep a record of how much I am spending on a month-by-month basis, allowing me to be financially responsible without compromising any self-care. I know I can see transaction listings through my bank, but I find it easier to view on paper in a single page, and this way I can filter out the necessary expenses, which I already track in my yearly overview. The final page for this setup is a marker swatch. With all the pens I have accumulated over the years, I found that I easily lose track of which specific markers I use to fill in trackers or draw borders or color in doodles, especially when the marker pen cap color doesn't quite match the ink on paper. I used to keep track of the markers I used on a memo pad, but it just added to the general clutter on my desk, and I decided to implement it into my monthly spreads instead. In following the theme of the setup, I drew capybara and cafe related doodles on the page, and then I marked each color with the brand I was using and the color code that is on the pen barrel. And now here is a final look at January 2025 in my bullet journal. I am super excited to start using all these pages in the new year. Feel free to drop some suggestions in the comments for my February theme, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!